Are you tired of all your layouts looking the same? Are you ready to level up your scrapbooking game? Let's learn about Level 1 and Level 2 scrapbooking.
Hello, my stash crushers. Welcome back to Scrappin' the Stash with Gail Chronicles of the Craft Room. And today we're going to talk about beginner and level 1 scrapbooking.
You're going to see Ground Zero level scrapbooking, as well as Level 1 scrapbooking, and also how to take your newly found hobby and Level 1 scrapbooking ability to new heights.
Now, a scrapbooking page typically consists of a title, a place to journal the story, and photos. That is the basics for a scrapbooking layout. And most of us will start just like this. We will have everything centered upon each other on the left side page and everything centered upon each other on the right side page. This is pretty typical for beginners. Some of us in the beginning will notice the space and we'll want to fill it with something that we call a sticker sneeze. Chew! Where we've just randomly placed embellishments just to fill the void, making sure and taking care that they are balanced. Now, as I'm going to reiterate, there is absolutely nothing wrong with scrapbooking this way. We all start here. Some of us stay here because we just want to get it done. I'm here to tell you that I lived in this level of scrapbooking for many years until I just decided that I just wanted to step it up a little bit. Started learning a little bit more about design and about color theory and understanding basically just how to bring a little artistry into my scrapbooking pages. So, one of the first things that we learn when we start scrapbooking is that the sticker sneeze isn't really the optimal way to embellish your layouts. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. As a level 1 scrapbooker, most of us live in the area of the 4x6 because at this point in our scrapbooking game, we're not printing pictures at home and we are stuck with whatever Walgreens, CVS, or Shutterfly, Snapfish, those types of companies will print for us. One of the first things as a level 1 scrapbooker I would like to challenge you with is thinking about what cardstock or what paper you actually start your layout with. And the easiest way to do this is to look at your pictures and just kind of think about what color would look nice with these pictures. We see the blue sky, we see the green in the grass, the peach and tan in all the skin tones, but we also need to consider the environment, which is obviously at the lake. So we're going to want to pick some marine or water type color scheme. What I would suggest with this would be an aqua cardstock. See how that just brings a little bit more fun and color into the layout? Now, one thing you'll notice from this side to this side is how the photos pop off of this white paper and kind of start blending in over here. So early on in our scrapbooking journey, we learned to mat our photos. Now, matting your photos can go one of two ways. You can either cut your photo down to a smaller size to fit a 4x6 photo mat, or you can leave your photo the size that it is, the 4x6 size, and cut your photo mat larger than the photo. Depending on the amount of mat you want, will determine how big to cut your photo mat or cut down your photo. But see, when I put that white photo mat around the picture, how it now pops the picture off of the layout and it's still allowing you to bring in this saturation of color. Whatever the amount of matte you want to show around your picture, this is a 1/4 inch. You have to double that. And that's how big to cut your mat. In other words, if this is a 4 by 6 photo and you want a 1/4 inch mat around the photo, you need to cut your mat 1/2 inch larger this way and 1/2 inch larger this way. So in other words, 4.5 by 6.5. That way you end up with a 1/4 inch all the way around your photo. Now, knowing that this is a 12 by 12 piece of paper, you don't necessarily want your mat size to be larger than 6 inches, because then that makes it difficult for you to take 2 pictures and span your layout this way. The same thing with this. This is 12 inches. You make this larger than 4, you're only going to be limited to 2 photos this way because there won't be enough room for a third one. So considering how you want to lay your photos out will ultimately determine how big the photo mat is. Now, I used to use a 1/4 inch because the math was easier. Now, once I decided, okay, it's just doubling what you want, then it was game on. So this is a 4 by 6 photo mat. So I cut down my photo to 3.5 by 5.5 so that the total footprint that the photo takes is a 4 by 6. You can't even tell that I'm missing anything out of this photo. So considering footprint you want the picture to take on your layout should determine how big your photo mat is, or how much to take off your photo to make your photo mat. I used to always do a 1/4 inch matting around until I decided that I really would like to maybe double mat a photo. So this is another step upping your scrapbooking layout game, is that once you're matting your photos and making them pop off the page and making it just look a little bit more polished and finished, you can also start to think about what pictures on the layout are more important than others. And that is basically selecting your favorite photo, or what I like to refer to as a hero photo. So all of these photos are pretty equal in what I like, but I'm going to select my self-portrait as the hero photo. So I still don't want to lose the 4 by 6 footprint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this photo mat down 1/4 inch on each side so that it makes it an 1/8 inch mat. So this is a 4 by 6, you can see. So I am going to take 1/4 inch off, 1/4 inch off this way. So now when I add this photo back onto my white mat, you can see that the white mat is evenly spaced, but it is a smaller mat. Now, to keep that footprint, what I want to do is kind of bring in a accent color, which I'd love to bring in this hot pink. So this mat is a 4 by 6 mat. But remember, we took off an 1/8 inch. So now I have an 1/8 inch white mat, and now I have an 1/8 inch accent color mat. So now this will pop off the white over here, or look how it pops off of this aqua blue over here, but still highlights the colors that are in the photos. So that's another way to step up your level 1 to level 2 scrapbooking game. So let's just go ahead and add the aqua over to this side. So I'm going to add my hero photo, all of these photos that have the white mat are just popping right off of there. so much nicer. Okay, I like that a lot. Now, if we're looking for a little bit of balance, this with the pink mat looks kind of off balance. It's not in the middle. Plus, we've got color, color, no color. Maybe we want to consider putting our hero photo at the front of the layout, which would be right over here. And maybe we want to take this photo and move it to the center of this trio of pictures. So now we've got pink, 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 pink. So that's kind of moving our eye across the page here. Another way to level this layout up would be to maybe add a little bit of patterned paper. We can do a monochromatic look with a little bit of a tropical flower. Even though this isn't tropical, it's still water. Add this to the flank, which just means side. And we can add it over here as well. Just so that what you do on one side, you've done on the other, and it just gives it a little bit of balance. Just adding that one patterned paper has created so much more interest. Plus, it actually frames in your whole layout, making it a little bit more cohesive. Once you add the patterned paper in, now you have this seam that kind of ends and drops off. So another way to make that look a little more complete and finished is to add a border strip. Now you can make it very interesting by adding something that is a little different texture from what the pattern paper is. And now I just covered a lot of that up so you can actually cut that out and use it somewhere else on the layout. If you're going to lay the photos over it, you could do the same thing over there, but see how that just kind of finishes that off and just actually creates even more interest. Now, another thing that you can do with this, the same thing, instead of adding a sticker border strip, you can actually take a coordinating washi tape, and that just sort of finishes off that edge for us. Now a trick too, so that you don't see the printed paper through that, is to just take your washi tape on white cardstock and then take your paper trimmer and cut that so that the washi tape is just a little more brilliant for you. I'm sort of glad that that paper ripped, because now I can tell you anytime that a catastrophe happens like that, it's not necessarily a catastrophe. It's just an opportunity to embellish. So we can actually cover that right up with this photo. That'll kind of help us with our photo placement, or we can put the border strip over that, or embellishment there. Now that we've created some interest and finished off the layout just a little bit more, let's add some embellishments. So instead of just filling the void where the pictures are not, let's consider a design concept called a visual triangle. And what that does is it creates a way for your eye to move across the page so that you're taking in everything there is to see on the layout. So we're just going to take some flowers and place them where you would think that they might want to be placed. Now, as you can see, those flowers that I just placed are not creating any kind of triangle whatsoever. In fact, they're creating a line. So what we want to see would be something maybe down here, something up here, and something down here. That creates the visual triangle here, like this. And we want most of our pictures to lay inside that visual triangle so that our eye bounces from one embellishment to the other, viewing everything within that visual triangle. That is just a design concept. It is not scrapbooking Bible truth. What this does, though, once you have this concept down, is to figure out placement of your embellishments, where they would need to go, which actually will dictate a little bit more attention to your photo layout. So let's take the photo arrangement here to the next level. Let's take a look at our photos. We have a few landscape and a few portrait. You also want to kind of consider the timeline that the pictures are occurring. So this is us going, me and my friends going down to the lake to actually get on the boat. So maybe we need to start this one over here. That seems like as good a place as any right here. Then this is us tooling around the lake. And this is a before and after, my friends with their inner tubes. And then this is us going to dinner in the evening. So let's see what happens when we rearrange the photos here a little bit so that it tells more of a story. Now, if I'm going to continue to use my photo, I actually could bring this down. See this dead space? There's nothing going on up here. So I could actually put my picture or photo, lay it over the top of the dead space of this photo and the dead space in the photo of our El Capitan. So now what that does is gives us plenty of space for us to embellish. If I were to decide to bring this over a little bit onto the photo, as well as bring the journal box up and over so it touches the title, then I can bring the flower up here to this corner. And now I've made a very interesting embellishment cluster so that it's not just, so everything is touching and it just makes your eye move across. So there's our first triangle. Another thing I would love to do is to hide this buoy that she's holding on to. So in order for us to bring our visual down here, we'd love to cover that up. So I'm going to bring this photo over just a little bit so that it's touching this strip. And then I can bring this down here, and then I can bring in the little flower here, as well as a little beach ball. Don't necessarily need a lot, but when you're creating an embellishment cluster, you want an odd number of items in the cluster and a variety of sizes and textures. So this is larger, that's medium, and this is smaller. Now you could also tuck that under a little bit to give it some depth. You could also include the fact that this is flowers, so you could probably get away without the little figurative beach ball, and it probably will actually not look too bad. So there's our second embellishment cluster. The third embellishment cluster, we've got this big open area here. And the fact that it has printed or the patterned paper here can act as part of the embellishment. So we can actually just add the other flower up here, at the top over here, or just kind of in the middle so that it's touching all of our pictures here. I'm thinking I would love to add in over there is maybe just a simple word embellishment. All three embellishment clusters, not only do they have the flowers, but they have a square shape as well as words. So that kind of gives the continuity. Plus, it's continuing to move your eye across the page. Now we're missing a little bit of something over here because there's only two elements, but at the same time, we're going to just utilize the patterned paper in the background here as our third or embellishment base. So see how this has just kind of leveled up a little bit. There's created more interest, more depth. There's more to look at. It's not just photos, but it's actually helping create the story about the photos, and it also has a little more personality and some style. Another thing that I might want to consider is the fact that the title here is getting a little lost. We might want to consider putting it on an offset, or maybe even scooting this over and then putting the flower down here. Now that's looking more like a level 2 scrapbooking layout. Now before we move on, I want to talk a little bit about picture sizes. The last thing that will bring you from level 1 scrapbooking to level 2 scrapbooking is the size of your photos. Now, going back to the beginning, most of us are using the 4x6 size photos because that's what we get when we print our photos when we're not printing at home. Now, I understand completely if you don't want to purchase the equipment and photo paper that it takes to print from home. I did not print photos for until this year. Let's face it, if you're stuck with 4x6 photos, you're pretty limited to how many photos you can fit on a layout, even if it is double page. And we are left with photos that we love that don't even get included on the layout because we just don't have enough real estate for all the cuteness and all the memories from the event. So what I want to do is show you a method that I coined the phrase crop to the action. These girls always tease me about it. It was just something I said at a retreat, a scrapbooking retreat one time. And I guess I was pretty adamant about it. And so they all say, crop to the action. It's like a roll call. Anyway, so let's look at all of these pictures and see how, even though they're printed 4x6, we can make them smaller by cropping out the negative space or arranging our photos so that they overlap into the negative space. So let's just start from the top here. So this picture obviously is very similar to this picture. It's the group photo for our girls' weekend. Since they're very similar, you can either delete one or cut out the negative space or cover up the negative space in it. So see how this is negative space, that there's not a lot going on there. There's also not a lot going on down here because it's just our torsos. So we could overlap with a different picture or the same picture. The same thing is going on up in this. So you can cover up or overlap that piece, taking up less real estate on your layout. Since they are very similar, I probably would choose one over the other. Now, this one actually has on the sign on Lake Time, which is where I took my title from. So I could either use this as the title of the page or eliminate it since I have a title. Now, the other neat thing that you could consider is putting this on the picture and making it your title, sort of more like a title picture. That decided it for me. Even though this is a great picture of us and it's cute, this one is just as nice, but I really want to incorporate this title, so I'm going to go ahead and eliminate this photo. Let's look at our Capitan here. This is my friend. This is her boat and her lake cottage where we stay. Now, you don't necessarily need to know that she's driving the boat. It's just a picture of my friend. So I could feasibly cut this off, and you could still tell that she's driving the boat even if you made this square. You can tell that we're on the lake, that she's driving the boat. And you could still embellish into it if we wanted to. This is considered dead space. This is considered dead space. Now, if we really wanted to just get my friend, we could crop it all the way into a square just of her face. And this is just taking your trimmer and cutting that. So we could make that easily just a square photo of her backing the boat out onto the lake. So that would be considered cropping to the action. On this picture, definitely could cut out the back of the boat because we can tell that we're getting on the boat. We could cut into the inner tube, just taking care that we don't cut off my friend's elbow there. And that could easily become a square. This is also considered dead space, even though it is sky. We could crop that out as well. Now that could become easily a 4x5, or even like a 3x5 photo, or a 4x4 square photo very easily. This photo, at first I didn't include it because it's a poor photo. It's very grainy. It's zoomed in very far. Because this weekend happened so long ago, this is actually 2016. The thing that we talk about with this weekend all the time is this incident right here. And so I have to include this photo, even though it wasn't originally included. So again, you can see where the dead space is in this photo. It would be cropping out the water, just so that you would end up with the girls. And that would be kind of an elongated photo, but we have panoramas now too that we print off. So, but you can see how that would end up being a much, much smaller photo than what it originally is. So you can see from that to this how much real estate you gain by cropping into the action. This photo here, you could crop out the inner tube and make it a shorter photo. You could crop into the sky. You could crop just up to the chest and the faces. That's a little exorbitant, but if you wanted to include these ladies in your layout, that would be an easier thing to do. But you can see how much real estate you would gain by cropping into just their faces. With this photo, the dead space is really this part of the boat, and maybe even the steering console. So it could just be a panoramic size of just the girls. One thing that I do a lot is this young lady, one of my friends, you can see is in a lot of the pictures, which is fine. That wasn't on purpose. But if I really needed this to be a smaller photo, I could actually crop her out just to make this one photo smaller yet. And this is the only picture I have of this friend. And so I definitely want to include it because she was there and I want to remember that she was there. So this could actually be a much smaller photo if I just cropped into the action and lost a participant that's in multiple other photos. This photo would be hard to crop into it, easily crop closer into her face and make it kind of an elongated photo. But I actually like the idea that tells me that she's on the back of the boat, so I don't mind this. Now, at the same time, this would be easy to overlap and take a photo and overlap this dead space so that you still have the water and the coastline, all of that within this picture. Now this picture is just an identical one of us walking down to the lake, which is under here. So there's this one that has the two girls with one in the foreground. And then there's also, this is us going down the steps, which are actually back here to us going down to the lake. So I could feasibly cut this way down to just a teeny tiny square. As you can see, that'd be like a 2 by 2, and just add it to like just overlap it in this dead space of this photo, or even up here in this part of the photo. This one would be difficult to crop down to the action because she's on this right side and these two are more offset to the left. So you definitely could crop it down a little bit this way and this way, but then you kind of lose the lake. So I like the actual lake part there. So you could easily crop it down to something a little smaller for sure. But then I would take this other photo and either, again, since they're similar, um, get rid of one or just cut way down to just the girls here in a 2 by 2 square and add it to the negative space of this photo. So that's something you can easily decide to do. This photo is pretty much set. You can't really cut much out of it. Now, my photo could come or go. Now that I'm including this photo, I'm in the pictures. So I actually could eliminate this. One thing I could do, though, easily is crop it down to just my face, to a square photo. This may or may not stay. Since this was my hero photo before, this is a much nicer and more practical photo to make the hero photo, especially if I'm going to make it a title photo. So this one could actually probably will be eliminated. This photo is us going to our favorite restaurant. It is called Down Under. And the only thing that you see from this restaurant is this tiny little, it's not tiny, but this gazebo with the sign next to it. So as soon as you get into this gazebo, you take stairs down into the restaurant, which is all underground. It's kind of like a bar and grill. It's very casual, but we enjoy it. So I definitely want to include this because it's tradition to go here for us to eat, and it does include all the other four girls that were there. This would be a little difficult to cut down, only because it does show the sign here and the gazebo and the girls. However, since we know it's the down under, I could probably eliminate that as well as the top here, just down to the gazebo. So you could easily lose an inch both ways on that photo to crop that down to the action. This photo here definitely could easily become a square photo, or even just eliminating all that rope, eliminating the back of the boat. This could be cropped way down. Wallet size or 2 by 3 photo. If you're going to crop all of that, all of the distraction out of it. There we go. Even just a 3 by 3 square. You can see how you still get all the action of the photo. You can tell that we're at the back of the boat, getting out of the boat. The color of the photo, colors in the photo is still there. So that's how you just gain real estate, by cropping or cutting down your photos and cropping all the distraction out, or as we say, crop to the action. Now this little guy here, I could actually cut this out singly as and use it as an embellishment. Every time we drive by this buoy, there's always a seagull on it. And I don't know why, but I just love seagulls. I've always enjoyed them. So again, you could leave this as is or crop way, way in. You could crop so much out of this photo if you just want him, or if you want to keep the some of the dock in the background. You could kind of offset the buoy a little bit, so you could gain a lot of real estate with this. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of how to take your 4 by 6 photos and include as many of them on your layout as you can or as you want to, because let's face it, scrapbooking, we're scrapbooking our pictures and our memories, and you want every memory that you could possibly include on your layout. And so in order to do that, if you're not printing your photos at home, you have to be able to identify, what can I take off of these pictures and make good choices as to what to include and what doesn't necessarily need to be included. But if you want to take your game up a notch and just be a little bit more creative and enjoy the process of scrapbooking a little more, then I would encourage you to, at minimum, try to add some patterned paper and try the three embellishment clusters in a visual triangle on your layout. Once you've got that down, then maybe try looking at your photo sizes and getting them cropped in and variable sizes. So what I'm going to do lastly is I'm going to crop these photos and show you a level 2 scrapbooking layout with all of these photos involved. So here are those pictures cropped down, several of them cropped down. I didn't even touch this picture, I just realized. So I could even cut this one down even more if I needed to. The page is a bit busier than it was with the 7 photos, but I've got every photo minus this one that I decided to eliminate at the beginning because it had on lake time already on it. Otherwise, I've got every photo on here. Here's my seagull on the buoy. It's part of this cluster over here. So you can see that we have the title with an embellishment clustering up here with a journal down to the second cluster and then traveling up to the third cluster over here. So we have our visual triangle. We have all of the photos included that we want to include, and we have plenty of room here to tell the story of the weekend and of these two ladies' little adventure that I actually was able to include as we talk about this weekend and this incident all the time. So, hopefully, this gave you some ideas about tips and tricks to use not only to get more photos on a page, but to kind of step up your game a little bit from level 1 scrapbooking to level 2 scrapbooking.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.